Here's your wrestling news for December 31st, 2022. And we're kicking off this New Year's Eve edition of Slat Rock Wrestling with Smackdown, and going into the show, all talk was about the main event. While the tag team main event wasn't the best in terms of wrestling, it didn't need to be, as the star quality alone made this the most must-see. The crowd in Tampa rightly went wild for John Cena, proving that all these years after his transition into a part-timer, he remains one of the biggest names in wrestling. As for the match, it was the Faces who emerged victorious, handing Roman Reigns only his second loss this year after intentionally getting disqualified against Seth Rollins at the Royal Rumble. For Cena, he'll be returning to Hollywood, but it's clear now that Reigns vs. Kevin Owens is the plan for the Royal Rumble. Even before last night's match, a backstage segment between Sami Zayn and Paul Heyman teased the end of his time with the group, as when their laugh ended, Heyman's face seemed indicative of a bigger plan in place. There's a lot of plans in the works right now, and with Owens likely coming up short against Reigns at the Rumble, perhaps this will be the catalyst that ends Zayn's time with the Bloodline once and for all. SmackDown marked the return of John Cena, but it also marked the return of Charlotte Flair in her first appearance since May. We're pleased to see Flair back, as SmackDown has been in need of another big name in the women's division other than Ronda Rousey, but the entire sequence of events felt bizarre. Rousey had just retained the SmackDown Women's Championship against Raquel Rodriguez in a hard-fought match, but the clearly exhausted UFC legend accepted a title match with Flair, one she would lose. You would think that after Money in the Bank, Rousey would be wary of title matches whenever she is not at 100%, but the now former champion looked like a complete idiot by accepting the challenge. Either way, Charlotte Flair is now SmackDown Women's Champion yet again, and it has been reported that the plans are for her to face Bianca Belair at WrestleMania 39, and we can only hope that WWE avoids another title unification match next year. Earlier this month, it was reported that WWE is eager to bring Tyson Fury in for next month's Royal Rumble and for WrestleMania, but that is easier said than done. While the boxing megastar has appeared for WWE before, he's never been at an event in the US, and it is believed that he is banned from entering the country. Fury's supposed ban is due to his alleged connection to Irish Mafia boss Daniel Kinahan, a claim that the Gypsy King has denied. It turns out that even if WWE were to get Fury, this would bring its own set of problems, as a major WWE source told the Wrestling Observer newsletter that he is refusing to put other talent over. Not only that, but Fury is also reportedly refusing to look vulnerable or show any kind of weakness, something that would have to happen if he were to compete in the men's Royal Rumble match as rumored. That same source also questioned whether having Fury as a surprise entrant would make sense, as he'd be paid a fortune for a few minutes of work, which WWE wouldn't even promote ahead of time. Fury's alleged ties to Kinahan is not being discussed behind the scenes in WWE, and while the promotion hopes to strike a deal that'll allow him to compete in the US, Fury himself isn't making things easy. Since September, CM Punk has been absent from AEW programming, thanks to a mix of his ongoing injury, his comments on the All Out post-show, and the backstage fight. This week, Punk alluded to the idea that he would be willing to make amends with the Elite, but that won't happen if some can help it. In The Observer, Meltzer writes that Chris Jericho has told the AEW locker room that he'll make sure Punk won't be brought back, and that several other top names in the company have shared the same sentiment. It's hardly surprising that Jericho is leading the charge to prevent a CM Punk return, as the inaugural AEW World Champion told Punk to his face that he was a cancer to the roster after the backstage brawl. It has been reported that AEW stars have told Tony Khan that they will refuse to work with Punk if he is brought back, and you have to imagine that Jericho's name is on the top of that list. But what do you think? Should CM Punk be brought back to AEW, or is he just too much trouble to be worth it? Let us know in the comments. Back to WWE, as Bray Wyatt had his first match back with the company this week and has been working the post-Christmas live event tour in matches against Jinder Mahal. Wyatt has defeated the modern-day Maharaja at MSG, Greensboro, North Carolina, and Miami, Florida, but the former Fiend didn't leave this last match uninjured. It is reported that Wyatt suffered an apparent broken finger during the Miami show, but took the injury well, even speaking with fans and showing off the damage after the match. While a broken finger is a relatively minor injury for a superstar, any kind of setback is the last thing he needs at this time, and we are sending Wyatt the best at this time. Since WrestleMania 38, Roman Reigns has dominated as undisputed WWE Universal Champion, but his run on top hasn't gone down well with those at the USA Network. As a SmackDown superstar, Raw often has to go weeks or even months without a world champion, and that's something that could change soon enough. It had been rumored that WWE planned on splitting Reigns' title up, but in the latest Observer, it's reported that there have been discussions about introducing a brand new World Championship. This title would be exclusive to Raw, or SmackDown if the Tribal Chief moves to the Red brand in an upcoming draft. We don't know who WWE plans on being the first new Raw World Champion, but some have suggested it could be Seth Rollins, who according to a recent leak, is set to defend a world title at WrestleMania. In Reigns' absence on Raw, Rollins has stepped up to be the #1 regular star on Monday nights, but should he be the first holder of this new world title? Sound off in the comments. We mentioned earlier how John Cena was victorious in his match during this week's SmackDown, and the 16-time WWE World Champion looked mighty impressive. It had been reported in the past that Cena was expected to compete at WrestleMania 39 next April, and now we have an idea of who he will face. Wrestling News reports that Cena is penciled in for WrestleMania, where he will take on Logan Paul. This is a match Paul has previously spoken about, saying on his Impulsive podcast that he had discussed the match with Triple H. Logan Paul has been impressive in his 3 matches this year, and if he is healed in time for the Royal Rumble, expect another stellar performance in April against one of the all-time greats. Speaking of WrestleMania, in 2019, Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch were set to finally face off one-on-one after the Man was pulled from their match at Survivor Series the previous year. Their WrestleMania match would become a triple threat match which would include Charlotte Flair, and now it looks like we may never get their singles match. Wrestling News reports that the plan for Lynch vs. Rousey at WrestleMania 39 have been scrapped, with Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio adding that the bout is not likely, with another calling it dead. Instead of Lynch, the current plan is for Rousey to face off with the Judgment Day's Rhea Ripley, and it remains to be seen if we ever get Rousey vs. Lynch one-on-one. We've got some sad news to report now as legendary wrestling announcer Don West has passed away. West's longtime TNA wrestling broadcast partner Mike Tenay broke the news, saying that Don had to tap out from his match with lymphoma and spoke about the bond they had as broadcast partners and friends. Before reaching TNA, West achieved success in the 90s as the host of the Shop at Home network and would also work from 2001 to 2008 as the host of the Sports Reporters radio show in Nashville. Tributes have been pouring in for West, with Impact, the NWA, and AEW all posting their condolences, while Impact alum including Kurt Angle, Christopher Daniels, and reigning world champion Josh Alexander spoke highly of the man. During SmackDown, Michael Cole shared WWE's tribute to him, calling West a man who made a true impact on the business, and we'd like to also offer our condolences to West's family, friends, and those who knew him at this time. And we're ending today with more from SmackDown as John Cena and Kevin Owens got the win, but Cena wasn't finished once the show ended. After the show went off the air, Cena and Owens were attacked by members of the Bloodline, but the arrival of Drew McIntyre and the Brawling Brutes turned the tide. It wasn't long before the Bloodline were sent packing, with Sami Zayn taking a stunner and an AA, and after that, Cena grabbed the mic and thanked the fans for coming out and for everyone he's been able to share the ring with. Cena noted that he's had at least one match every year since 2002, a record that was nearly broken this year, and thanked the fans again for giving him the gift of letting him step in the ring for 20 years. John Cena will go down in history as one of the greatest of all time, and while his days in the ring may be numbered, he'll always appreciate who got him to this point.